Joining us on line number one, fresh from being back in the courtroom, taking on now court and provincial government regarding Muskrat Falls, Brad Cabana. Hi, Brad, you're on the air.
Hey, Patty.
How are you?
A little tired today, a little burnt out. You know, it's been a couple months of getting ready and several days now of pretty intense stuff in court. So
It sounded like it was pretty intense, and there was an awful lot of ground covered, Brad. Why don't you go ahead and give us the Coles notes about what went down, and then I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure. Basically, it centered around two real issues. The one issue was the Innu and the referendum, their referendum on the New Dawn Agreement, how that gave the go-ahead to the project, and the rest of the province didn't get one. But the primary issue really centered around the Water Management Agreement and the 2007 amendments to the Electrical Control Act that the Williams government made that allowed for that Water Management Agreement, and the constitutionality of it, and specifically how it removes control of the plant from the Upper Churchill plant from Hydro-Quebec to the government of Newfoundland.
So many people have looked at the Water Management Agreement and say that a lot of people that we're in pretty good stead when it comes to how we're going to be able to access the water. You've never agreed with it, and how about the answers you were given yesterday? What was the meat on that bone?
Well, to be quite honest with you, the government really, for starters, neither the government nor Nalcor put forward one piece of evidence to back their position on the Water Management Agreement. As a matter of fact, there was only one paragraph in Nalcor's submission about the Water Management Agreement, and it was basically very sheltered in the discussion. So it was very hard to cross-examine Mr. Bennett because I had to follow what he had said, and he hadn't said very much. So, however, in court, we dissected it piece by piece by piece, and quite frankly, there is a lot of that agreement that is not constitutional and doesn't measure up to the Water Reversion Supreme Court review back in 1984. And in some ways, frankly, it seems to ignore it. And so that was gone through, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph.
So, and I think, that is a complicated piece. I've read it, I've heard from you and others, and people on both sides of it, so I don't know where it's going to land, and of course it's in the hands of the judge here now. Mm-hmm. But interestingly, in the New Dawn Agreement, and some of the back and forth, some of the Twitter recount of what you had said, you can, of course, set me straight here, but here's what was implied by many, is that the Innu were bribed with the $5,000 a head to go ahead and vote to ratify the New Dawn Agreement, as you say, to give the project to go ahead, Muskrat Falls. Then there was whether or not they knew what they were voting on. Were they given enough information? Was it given in a timely fashion? Was it indeed a bribe? For many people, I think some were offended. I haven't heard one Innu actually say that, but I've heard other people say it on their behalf. What are you contending is actually the problem with the New Dawn Agreement?
Well, the New Dawn Agreement is it's fine for the Innu, and in fact, the Innu were never even really initially a part of my lawsuit. The courts forced me to include the Innu in it because some of their rights were involved. However, the big problem with just address those two things you brought up there. The first one being the issue of a bribe, or more probably, better put, a reward. I wouldn't say bribe, more like maybe reward. That issue there, all I can tell you on that is that I did receive the last 2.5 years worth of minutes from the Innu Trust from an insider in Labrador, and in those minutes it describes a teleconference that happened on the 6th of July, just days after the vote, where every man, woman, and child of the Innu Nation was given a $5,000 payout. It was moved by and passed. So I can tell you that. I can also tell you that the money was borrowed from the Children's Trust and repaid with a bank loan from the Bank of Montreal. I can tell you that. But, other than that, I can't really necessarily draw a line. But, certainly following shortly after the vote itself, never having a payout like that before in the history that I've seen there, it leaves some questions.
And so part of your contention also is that if they were given this agreement to vote on, then it should have been a courtesy extended to the rest of the people in the province. We've had this conversation before. I don't know if I was always opposed to the idea of a referendum on Muskrat Falls, not because I was worried about what people would say one way or the other. I just didn't know if anybody knew enough about it, to be honest with you, to put it in the hands of the people. Why should anyone be consulted, including the Innu, on this kind of stuff?
Well, I just wanted to just quickly answer your last question. Sorry, I didn't get to answer that. In court, I can tell you that when I did cross-examine Chief Proker, he did say in court that the Innu people were not aware of all the details of the agreements, and he said that the Innu Nation, that's their leadership, told them, quote, what they needed to know, unquote. And so, I mean...
So that's their own problem, though, Brad, isn't it?
Some people won't.
Isn't that their own problem, though?
It's totally their own problem, and it's really none of my business or anyone else's business, except for one problem, and that is that in that IBA, their Impact and Benefits Agreement, it says that the Innu give the right for and consent for the project to go ahead. And that's the problem I have, because those 2,200 people had the right to give the go-ahead to this project by vote, but the other 507,000 people in the province didn't get the similar right, and that's the problem I have.
Yeah. What do we expect a ruling from the judge? I suspect very quickly. How about you?
Well, she said it could be days, it could be weeks, it could be a month. To be quite honest with you, it's a very complicated constitutional issues at hand, and I suspect it'll be longer than shorter. I suspect it'll be at least weeks.
Brad, how much money does this all cost you?
Well, I'd probably, right now, give or take, somewhere in the vicinity of $25,000. Is
it money you had?
Well, some of it is. Some of it we had to borrow. I sold my boat. My family is, we've gotten by, but we haven't. We've been working for. Let's put it this way: we've been working to fight this issue, and was a big sacrifice particularly on my wife's part, and I certainly couldn't have done it without her. And I'm very appreciative of her support.
How about anyone else in the community? Some of the opposed to Muskrat Falls people who do indeed have deep pockets of pinstripe suits. Anybody flick
pinstripe suits? But I will say that there is a couple businessmen who have indicated, from St. John's, who have indicated that they would like to contribute towards that. So I do appreciate that.
I just wonder because, everyone's all rah, rah, rah until it comes time to put their money where their mouth is and stuff, and then they're all of a sudden very, very quiet. Brad, listen, I appreciate the call today. We'll, of course, be waiting for the ruling. I anticipate it to be very quickly. And when it happens, regardless of what it is, hopefully we'll touch base again.
Really good. Thanks a lot, Patty.
Take care of yourself.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Yeah, it's like the Brunos, and some people like the point of view that they offer, and some people don't. Brad Cabana gets ridiculed, as we all know. But, and I don't know, and I don't care what you think of Brad, but I do know that I find it pretty dicey and shady for some of the folks who have talked such big smack, and they retweet stuff Cabana says, and they retweet his blog, and they're all rah, rah, rah. And then when it comes time to break it out and, fight the good fight, whether or not you support it is irrelevant. To do something like he's done, or to possibly help the man out before he breaks himself financially, I just think it's a bit much. I think it's a good reflection on what some of these people are all about.